Alright, today we are going to talk about rounding and estimating. Um, and we're going to talk about rounding and estimating with a couple of different strategies. So, um, basically, different, you know, certain word problems might actually specify where to estimate to, right? So let's say this was in a word problem. Let's say this was the problem in a word problem, and it said estimate to the nearest um, 10, right? So in this case, when they say estimate the answer to the nearest 10, they're not talking about just do the math for 124 times 38 and then round that to the nearest 10. They're saying to round these numbers to the nearest 10 and then multiply those. So to round 38 to the nearest 10, we know that 3 is in the tens place, so that means we have to look at one digit to the right, which is the ones, and that would be 8. So since it's if it's 0 to 4, then the 3 would stay the same, but if it's 5 to 9, then the 3 goes up 1, plus 1, and 0 to 4 stays the same. So since it's in the 5 to 9, 38 rounds to 40. And then we do the same thing in 124. Since the 2 is in the tens spot, we go over here, and the 4, okay, is so the 4 is in the 1 spot, which means it's 0 to 4, which means this stays the same. And any number to the left of where we're rounding will also stay the same. So that means we would do 120 times 40. Now, I can look at the base facts of 12 times 4. Since I know my multiplication tables, I know that 12 times 4 is 48. And then I'm going to add the 2 zeros from these numbers, and it becomes 4,800. Okay, that is the is this number rounded to the nearest 10. Now we can go here. So we have 587 and 722. Now we could, if we were to round these to the nearest 10, we would get 590 times 720, right? The 2 stays the same because the 2's next to it, which is 0 to 4, so it would be 720. The 8 goes up to 59, or goes up to a 9 because the 7 is next to it, so it would be 590 times 720. To be honest, this doesn't really help us out much. It's not like I can do 59 times 72 easily in my head, right? So for this one, it would probably be best to just estimate to the nearest 100, which would be, now we're at 500, I go over 1, and I see an 8 there, which means that I'm going to have to go up by 1, so that would be 600, right? Any number 550 and above rounds up to 600 by the hundreds, and 549 and below would go to 500, and then 722, we start at the 7, we see that the 2's next to it, so that's going to be times 700. Okay, so this 6 times 7 ends up being 42, and then I would add 1, 2, 3, 4, which would be 420,000. I just added the 4 zeros from both numbers. Okay? So that's how you do that. Now, I also want to talk about rounding in a specific way. 43 times 26. Another way to round, which would be with compatible numbers. Now, 26, I could round up to 30, right? But I could also do 40, round this 4 to 10, and then I could round the 26, not really round, but use a compatible number of 25. I know that 4 times 25, I like to think about 25s because 25 is a quarter, right? So 4 times 25 I know is 100. So 40 times 25, I'm just going to do 4 times 25 as the base fact. So this would be 1,000. So another way to estimate is to use compatible numbers. I know that 25 is a number that I know, and although I could do 30, in this case 25 would give a more accurate answer, right? So I just want to mention, I also want to mention that the lower the place value that you round or estimate to, the closer it is going to be to the answer, to the actual answer, right? So 590 times 720 is going to be closer to the actual answer than 600 times 700. But it's just going to be, more complicated math to get this answer than it would to get this answer, right? So if you're rounding to the nearest tens, your answer is going to be more precise than rounding to the nearest hundreds. Also, if you're, let's just say, both of your answers are rounding down, so let's just say 43 times 32, and then I round to 40 times 30. In this case, we know for certain that the rounding answer is going to be lower than this actual answer. But if we were to go 46 times 58, and both rounded 50 times 60, both round up, this answer, the rounded answer, is going to be higher than this answer, right? Because both of these were rounded up. Now, if one rounds up and one rounds down, then you don't know immediately, usually, if it's going to be higher or lower than the actual answer. But if both round down, the estimate's going to be lower. If both round up, the estimate's going to be higher.